Liz McBee. I'm here at the Seventh Annual Albany FilmFest, and I have the wonderfully talented Cameo Wood. Cameo, thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The festival's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about your film, like the elevator speech.
It's about a young woman who interviews at her dream job and finds out that the way of making films is not what she thought it was going to be, and it touches on themes of artificial intelligence and memory erasing drugs.
Wow.
Super simple.
Super simple and very dark. How did you come upon this idea?
Well, I was taking a flight, and during this time I wasn't allowed to have my iPad during takeoff. So I stopped at a bookstore and got a magazine. It was MIT's Technology Review, and they had an SF short story edition. So I got that, and I was reading it, and I read this short story by a guy named Ken Liu. And while I was in the air at 10,000 feet, I emailed him, and I was like, this is great, this should be a movie, I should make the movie, can I have the rights? And he just immediately emailed back. He said, of course, this sounds great. So that's sort of how it started.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And how long from that point on, were you done?
So I think we optioned it in 2012, and I wrote a couple of ideas down, but it was hard for me to find a producing partner and really sort of figure out what needed to happen to be able to actually start shooting it. So I had a couple of false starts. I think we tried to shoot it in 2013, and then we tried again in 2015, and then finally in 2016 I had the right team, the right cast and crew, so that we were able to go forward.
Tell me a little bit about your lead. She was phenomenal.
Yeah, so we had sort of like two leads. One was Tamlyn Tomita,
Right.
and I have known about her. I remember sitting down with my grandmother watching Karate Kid Part 2 and watching her as Daniel's girlfriend in Japan and thinking she was just stunning. And I saw her again a few other times, and so I've always been impressed with her work, and she was the very first person to be involved with the project. And then the other person was Sophia, who was played by Tiffany Hines. And again, same thing. I remember I was watching Bones, and she is a character on Bones, which is actually descending tonight. And I remember seeing her the very first time she came on screen and thinking, oh my God, like this woman is just riveting. And I was just astonished at how emotive she was. And so when we were going through our list of people to look at, we were actually saying, I don't know, like she's such a big deal. I don't know if we can get her, but we did reach out. Turns out she's a huge sci-fi fantasy fan. And we bonded a little over Game of Thrones, and she was like, yes, of course I'll be in your movie. So, yeah, that's how we got her.
That's a great score. She was wonderful. Yeah, the nuances on her face, you really got some nice acting,
Yeah.
Do you enjoy directing narrative?
Yeah, so directing narrative is, I made a small doc before this, and I'm not a doc person, I've learned that. So yeah, I love it. I think that the job of a director is really to tell everyone else the rules of the world and what's going on. So it's sort of being a translator between imagination to theatric. And so yeah, I absolutely loved directing. And also, I had these two actors who have so much experience. Both of them have at least like 20 credits. Probably Tamlyn has 70. So a lot of the time, I could just say a couple of things and we were all on the same page. And because we shot on film, we only had 1 to 3 takes for every shot. So, so all their performances are probably the only one that they ever gave for that scene.
Wow. What'd you shoot on? 6?
Yeah, so we shot on 35 millimeter and on a Panavision camera and on Kodak film, and we had great sponsors there. They really want to see more people shooting on film. So yeah, we benefited from a lot of people sort of going onto this digital wagon.
Well, speaking of that, so are you at all threatened by AI movie making?
So Kevin Kelly wrote this book called The Inevitable. And one of the things that he talks about in his book that I really agree with is that the future of our viability as artists or engineers or people at work will be our ability to collaborate with artificial intelligence. And I think that we see it all the time, whenever we pop something into our traffic and maps programs and we don't quite get the route we think we do, we should. And so we, maybe change the address or maybe change the time a little bit to figure out how to communicate with the AI that's coming up with this route, so that we can get something that is a little bit better. Or whenever we have like a Pandora station that isn't quite giving us what we want, we say, no, I don't like that, or yes, more of that. So we're actually teaching this AI to give us something better. And I think that the people who understand how to communicate with an AI a little, those are the people that will succeed. Now, as far as AI is taking over for art, I think that there will always be this like resistance to having everything totally decided upon for us by an AI, and I don't think it's out of mistrust. I think it's just that we are, as humans, I think that we have a lot of, I think that we really want to be independent, and I think that in some ways we may want to, with Netflix, we love having Netflix choose things for us and recommend things for us. Recommendation engines are very powerful, but I think that at a certain point, the people who are more adventurous will say, I'm going to get something that this AI says there's a 0% chance I'm going to like it, but maybe my other friends have liked it, and I want to know what it is that I hate. Like, what is it about this that it thinks, like, how does it know that about me? Right. And I think that those types of people that really want to understand their tastes outside of an AI context, I think that those people will never be, I don't think there's anything to worry about, honestly.
Very interesting. One last question really quick, and total personal. Have you had any people react to the posters and the connection between the obvious studio that...
Oh, yeah. So when we were doing our sound, we had some sound guys say, oh, wow, like, these are totally like Pixar posters. Mm-hmm. And I think that, obviously Pixar is one of the biggest companies, and when we think about animated films with great stories that, change people's lives, Pixar and Disney sort of come to mind. Now they're kind of the same thing. So they definitely are an homage. But I think that, we actually came up with whole storylines for every single one of those movies. And we were very inspired. So we hope that it's more of just looking toward Pixar, saying, when it comes to like the platonic ideal of the modern day animation studio that's successful, they are it, and they have a language that we're basically just speaking Pixar language with those posters.
Right. Well, great job. Thank you so much for being a part of the Film Fest.
Yeah.